Welcome to Gapology Radio with your hosts Mark Tinas and Brian Brockhoff. This is your leadership development podcast where they share unique insights with the purpose of helping leaders achieve their greatest potential. You can learn more by reading their books, Gapology, IMBAR, and Speed of Purpose, or by participating in one of their workshops. All of this and more can be found on their website, gapology.org.
Hey everybody, welcome to Gapology Radio. We would love to hear your thoughts and ideas for this podcast. Our purpose is helping leaders achieve their greatest potential. And Gapology Radio and our supplemental blog, The Gapology Angle, are really built to help us deliver that purpose by creating additional methods to discuss leadership, which helps leaders with navigating real-world situations in very strategic ways. So let us know some of the things that you're dealing with, and we can try to tackle some of them on the show. Just send an email to contact@gapology.org. So tonight we have a very interesting topic that we'll all be discussing: creating an inclusive workplace culture. So let's go ahead and get the show rolling. Hey Mark, hey Judy, how you guys doing?
We are super fantastic. How are you?
Good.
Hey Brian, hey Judy.
Hey Mark. Are you guys excited for the show?
Oh yeah, always.
Okay, good. That's good. So tonight's topic, it's a really good one. It's really interesting. We're going to be discussing creating an inclusive workplace culture. So one of the struggles that I've been seeing and hearing about lately is that frontline team members, first level and mid-tier leaders are really struggling to have their voices heard and feel included. And many of them have great ideas and great thoughts from what they are seeing and experiencing on the front lines. And what I find is that too often they're just afraid to raise their hands or speak up to share this stuff. And I found that it's really up to the leader to create this culture where everyone feels included. So why don't we kick it off? Mark, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, no, thanks, Brian. And thanks for bringing up this topic. It really made me think back over the years. And as I looked at the greatest teams that I've been on, they were extremely diverse and inclusive. And I pondered upon that and thought about the fact that they weren't about race or religion or gender or sexual orientation. It was really about our alignment as a team around a purpose, a common purpose. And that's what brought us together. And that changed everything. So I think we get too hung up on other things when alignment of purpose creates an inclusive workplace culture in and of itself. What do you think, Judy?
Oh, I am so with you, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. There, especially as of late, there have been so many little things to get hung up on, and everyone has their conversations about things that are really critically important to them. We're just in our primary organization of Bach to Rock, we're just planning a team meeting to bring all of these people who have been remote for all of these months together. And it is primarily what we're going to be talking about is our purpose. What is our mission? And what, we started out wanting to create a music school, or I wanted to work with my son. And now it's as we've evolved, our mission is really to make a difference in people's lives in the area of music. And that is our purpose. And instead of getting hung up on all these little things, let's get people rallied around that. I think that's really what it's all about. And I think being in an area where you can rally people around your purpose is the proactive way to get people aligned.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, I was thinking about this topic too, just before we all dialed in. And I was thinking about, at times, I think we've all felt like an outsider. It could be at a party or an event or something where we felt like we didn't quite fit in, maybe we didn't know enough people or whatever. So, at that front line worker, they have great ideas. They have things that they probably would like to share, things that they're just even hearing from our customers, our clients, and so forth. And if the leader's not creating that open environment where they're feeling connected enough to share some of this kind of stuff, I think it can really do a disservice to the overall organization and a disservice to achieving our purpose.
Yeah, that's a great point. Judy, Brian and I spent the last few years researching and writing a book called Speed of Purpose, which I know you've heard of. It's incredible in terms of its evidence that teams that align around purpose move much faster and have a more inclusive, culture than other teams. When you're aligned around purpose, that's what matters.
Right.
That's what matters. And then the key to it is you also identify the specific behaviors that align with that purpose and or equal or create that purpose. Once that all comes together, it creates an environment that is inclusive and is about purpose. And we are aligned because we are aligned around purpose. It is a total game changer. So we have not shared with you yet this workshop that we've done on Speed of Purpose. It's amazing. And if you want it for your organization, we'll figure out how to deliver that.
Yeah,
So,
I would like to figure that out because I definitely, and I know of the Speed of Purpose book, but I haven't been as involved as Gapology and things like that are just at the tip of my tongue all the time. But I completely agree that sometimes we are like very dialed in on mandating, like adhering to a certain standard when we're really missing the bigger picture, which is really aligning around that purpose.
Totally.
Yeah. In Gapology, it gives us the tools to really do that.
Right.
Right. So, and all of our books are really connected. They serve a different purpose. They're connected in a different way. And in Gapology, when we're looking at purpose, we really need to avoid any of the performance gaps that we talk about in Gapology, because that really does prevent us from achieving that purpose. So under the knowledge gap, it's training, teaching, and talent, like we've talked about. Training. So a method to leverage the training route solution to close the knowledge gap around this topic is really to develop training that connects to the organizational purpose into every role, right? So when you're building that training program, it needs to connect to that organizational purpose.
Yes.
That really helps to drive that inclusive culture. Teaching, build coaching and mentorship programs that are designed to encourage cross-functional partnerships and team building. And then for the talent route solution, leverage your A players to help lead cross-functional programs and activities. So that would just be kind of an example of how you can leverage Gapology to deliver this specific objective.
Yeah, I have a really good example that Mark may remember from way back in our days at Office Max. And one of the ways to connect people and their roles with the purpose of the organization at Office Max was talking about like creating a great experience for the guest. And we were able to narrow this down to the role of the person who collected the carts from the parking lot. And I always remembered this.
Yeah.
And I remember this. We had a senior vice president of operations, and he said to our team, and he said to the people that collected the carts, if it wasn't for you, like people could only buy what they could hold in their hands. And when you are able to bring those carts in and we have the carts available, they can like fill them up and they can be like totally overflowing, with product. But without you, they could only carry what was in their hands. And I thought it is like the best example I found of really connecting every role in the organization is important. And some people think some are more important. And, I'm hard pressed to say that the person who is directly in contact with the guest isn't the most important person, right? And the person who's bringing in the carts, they're critically important. So anyways, that's my little example of how that is always stuck with me. And I tried to relate it to other companies in the same way, but none have been as good at Office Max, where Mark and I were together in the overflowing cart world.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful memory. I remember showing up at a store with all the carts in the parking lot. Saying, how are we going to do any business today?
Wow.
Let me connect the knowledge gap back to the inclusive workplace culture. In addition to what Judy has just said. So what I've seen is when the leader teaches and models the behavior that equals the purpose, we can create an inclusive workplace culture. If the leader ignores that critical piece, the behaviors, and an example would be, we saw a leader once that would walk by customers like they didn't matter, versus a leader that would interact with customers and model the behavior that we expected. And suddenly the purpose came to life versus the purpose didn't matter. It created this sense of belonging. And again, this inclusive culture. So when the knowledge gap is truly closed because the leaders model and teach, everything starts to come together.
That is so important. And that's just a lot of the knowledge gap is when you're sharing that, demonstrating what you're saying. It seems obvious to all of us, but a lot of times people will be saying, do this. And then the customer is the most important. And then the customer walks up while you're present and you continue your conversation with this person, ignoring the customer. It's what are you saying? What are you demonstrating? So yeah, that is so critical. Nothing sends a message more than when you are demonstrating what you're teaching.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that goes to the point of, are we as leaders reaching out and opening that door so that people feel like they can communicate with us? If we're saying, hey, we want to hear from you, but then we don't actually initiate any of that conversation, or we don't make ourselves available for those conversations, it really doesn't mean anything. So yeah, absolutely, our behaviors absolutely reflect what our expectations are.
Yeah, that is a really good point. I know a lot of people in their worlds, they'll say, I have an open door policy. And I would say, just because your door is open doesn't mean that people feel comfortable coming and talking to you. Totally. So it's more, rather than, I think what you're saying, having that atmosphere where people feel comfortable to say what's on their mind. And I've often felt that people want to be able to say what's on their mind. And they know that sometimes we're in a corporate world, sometimes we're in situations where things that they want can't be done, but they want to be heard. And I think that's really important to be able to create that atmosphere, however we do it, of saying, we are comfortable with you coming and talking to us. We really want you to share what's on your mind.
Yep.
So important.
Yeah, for sure. In order to close the importance gap, so the three root solutions are expectations, communication, and prioritization. So some methods that you can do under expectations root solution is really to establish expectations around participating in cross-functional activities, defining methods of building a team culture. For the communication root solution, ensuring all team members are provided the vehicles and the time necessary to share the thoughts and ask the questions and connect with other people in the organization. And then under prioritization, I think some of the things we can do are really just kind of like we talked about last week. Just keep things simple. Don't overcomplicate your methods. Ensure that cross-functional activities are built into the organization's priorities, and the time is actually devoted to make those things impactful.
Yeah, we had an incredible tactic that we would use to close the importance gap. Brian and Judy will remember this well. We used to travel and visit with teams across the country, and we would close the importance gap as we would arrive at a location by pulling the team together and having a standing ovation for those that showed excellence in our purpose. And we found that many people in their lifetime had never received a standing ovation. So as we created this spontaneous, thunderous standing ovation, we would close the importance gap forever in the minds of that team. They would know what mattered because we would celebrate excellence in our purpose with specific people talking about the specific behaviors that they did to uphold our purpose. And in that environment, an inclusive workplace culture is created right then. The standing ovation, I wish you could have all been there.
Oh, yeah.
It created tears. It created sobbing in people that had never experienced that in their lifetime. And let me tell you, they'll never forget it in their lifetime as well.
Yeah, that standing ovation is really a big deal. And we had somebody present to one of our organizations one time and there was something about a standing ovation. It was like, but I've never forgotten that. And I've, whenever possible, tried to do that. We have a thing at Bach to Rock where we have secret shops and people listen to like how our employees respond to customers and if they like say the right thing in the right way and everything. And we had an employee who did everything correctly, and our person from our franchisor sent us a message and said, "This is so amazing. Do you mind if we share it with other franchise partners?" So we called that person in on Monday at the beginning of our meeting and said, "Hey, we want to just let you know that you're a rock star, and like you not only did like 100% on this, but our corporate office wants to use you as an example to share with other franchisees." And we gave her a standing ovation. She was like totally blown away. It is a big deal. And I think sometimes we get titles and things like that, and we don't realize the importance of our words and the importance of because we're not like all that about who we are, but we forget how important it is when we acknowledge people in a really positive way.
Yeah, I love that. I think the power of that is just, it's indescribable. I think when you're standing on the end of that and everyone is standing looking at you and you're receiving that, I mean, that's so powerful, and it doesn't cost a thing to do it.
Right. And as you think about
simple.
it, the importance gap is like, it's not just like saying, okay, is this important to us? If you don't do it, we're going to be after you. But when you do it, we are going to make a big deal of it. Like, this is so important to us, and we're so happy that you have recognized this really is important and you've done it. So it's that recognizing people on the important areas that we've laid out.
It sends a message to the team,
right,
about what matters.
Right.
And what that creates is ideally a daily behavior in them to achieve that. It's something to aspire to and something to work towards. I was in a store, in a retail store once, and one of the stockers I noticed occasionally he would reach into his pocket and flip a coin and put it back in his pocket. And I approached him. I said, what's that coin? He said, "Oh, I received this at Sears 25 years ago for top performer. And I carry it in my pocket every day."
Wow.
It mattered. He exemplified the purpose, the behaviors that they were going after. He carried it with him for 25 years. So things like that matter, and they create this inclusive workplace. It's not about anything other than alignment of purpose.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's a great example, Mark.
Yeah, just think about how included he felt. He felt like he mattered.
Every day.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Even after Sears.
Right.
Sears used to be great. Kmart used to be great. Kmart had 2,000 stores. They have 3 stores today.
Yeah, wow.
So they lost it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to.
Yep.
We don't have to. We can find this in our teams.
Yep.
We can create it.
Yep. And my high school job was at Kmart. Okay, let's move to the action gap.
And you're great.
Yeah.
Well, you left. You left.
I know, and they all just collapsed after
Look
that.
what happened.
I know. I was the best sporting goods guy. Okay. So let's look at the action gap. So to close the action gap, we have 3 root solutions. We have accountability, commitment, and culture. So some of the things that I was looking at there as far as things that you can do to create this culture is under accountability, provide recognition to those who help to drive inclusiveness and partnership, as well as recognizing those participating. So that could be something like a standing ovation or a coin, something like that, where you're providing recognition around other people who are helping to drive this inclusive culture. Under commitment, I put, stay focused on driving overall engagement and recognition, really stay committed to that. It's not just a topic of the week, right? So really remaining committed to that. And then under culture, it's really ensuring that all areas of the organization or your departmental team are involved in programs and activities, even in small ways. We want to always make sure that we're reaching out to anybody that's included in our overall organization.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, the action gap is closed by the leaders that create a culture around the purpose and the behaviors that matter most. And in that culture, the inclusive workplace is created, and everybody wins. And it's an incredible place to work and to thrive and get promoted and become a leader and lead teams, and everything comes together. So when the leader creates the culture around that purpose, everything changes.
I think especially being in the music industry right now, we have, not that it's just this industry, but we have a very diverse group, and proactively recognizing people for their efforts around inclusivity. It is a proactive effort on our part as leaders to make sure that people are recognized in those areas.
Yeah, I think it's really critical that leaders, regardless of their industry, take a look at your culture, and even if it's a smaller team or just a work group that you're leading, the health of your culture dramatically impacts the engagement and the performance of the team. We've talked a lot about engagement over the last few weeks, but what is your culture really like? Are you including the different people from all areas of your business? It's really one of the first places I think a leader needs to start.
Yeah. And I think the thing I always say is, like, people do recognize that you can't always act on what they're saying, but they really want to be listened to.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
And ultimately a culture of inclusion can be the greatest team ever.
Right.
And leaders need to realize that. And if you want to achieve great results and results that last ongoing, that's really the key. And it is simplest when built around a purpose that everyone can rally around. Yeah. We've seen it time and time again.
100%.
Okay. I think that's a great way to end this. I think excellent discussion. And like I had mentioned in the opening, for our listeners, send in your thoughts, send in your comments. Otherwise, additional topics for future podcasts. We'd love to hear some of your thoughts as well. So thanks, Mark. Thanks, Judy.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Judy.
Yep. We'll talk to y'all later.
Sounds good.
Bye. Okay, that'll do it from here. For more information on Gapology, Speed of Purpose, or even IMBAR, head on over to our website, gapology.org. Everyone have a fantastic week. Talk to you soon.
This has been a Gapology Institute production. Visit us at gapology.org.